Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're diving into the fascinating psychological reality behind why people suddenly just vanish from the digital world without a trace. We live in an era where being constantly connected is the absolute norm, right? So when someone actively chooses to pull the plug, it immediately raises some questions. Are they hiding? Are they going through a crisis? Well, the reality is far more complex and honestly, significantly more empowering than you might assume. We're going to look closely at the mental evolution that happens when someone decides to step away from the endless feeds. And trust me, the science behind this choice is absolutely riveting.
So let's start by asking ourselves, have you ever wondered why people just vanish from social media? No drama, no goodbye post, only to emerge later completely transformed. You've probably experienced this with a friend or a coworker. One day they're posting their regular updates, and the next day, poof, their accounts are just gone. There's no grand announcement, no dramatic declaration of a quote-unquote digital detox, just a quiet, decisive exit. It leaves the rest of us scrolling, kind of wondering what exactly prompted such a sudden departure from the virtual public square.
But here is what's really interesting when you actually see them next. A post-deletion transformation has happened. They are calmer, their focus is noticeably sharper, and they just seem more real. When they leave, psychology tells us they aren't actually running away from the world. Actually, scratch that, it's more like they're waking up from it. They aren't behaving like people fleeing a problem. They act like people who have finally shed this heavy, invisible weight. So what exactly is happening inside their minds to trigger this?
Section 1. Revaluing attention and self-worth. Now, early on, social media offers a really quick, easy way to feel seen. But for the people who eventually walk away, they hit a distinct threshold where their self-worth actually outgrows the need for external validation, like likes and followers. The driving force here is hedonic adaptation. This is the psychological concept that your brain gets so used to any form of pleasure until it completely loses its meaning. It's like eating your absolute favorite dessert every single day. Eventually, the thrill is just gone. The dopamine hits from those little notification bubbles become a flat line. The brain adapts, and the superficial digital applause just doesn't give you that rush anymore.
And that brings us to a huge myth, that leaving is just about getting bored with an app. The reality? It represents a profound step into emotional maturity. It's the realization that your worth is no longer negotiable. When you realize that you no longer need a glowing screen to tell you that you matter, you undergo this massive psychological shift. Your self-worth becomes internally generated rather than externally dependent. Deleting the apps is basically the ultimate realization that your value in the real world is entirely separate from your visibility in the digital one.
Plus, there's the myth that these people are just escaping the world, but the reality is they are reallocating their mental energy. Gifted, self-aware individuals realize that cognitive bandwidth is a finite, incredibly valuable resource. Think of it literally exactly like your phone's battery. Every scroll, every notification, it drains 1% of your mental energy, leaving almost nothing for real life. By deleting social media, these individuals aren't hiding. They are fiercely protecting that bandwidth and redirecting it towards things that actually compound over time, like deep learning and critical thinking.
Section 2. Escaping the digital slot machine.
So, once you recognize the true value of your attention, you also start to recognize exactly how these platforms are specifically designed to steal it. Most people don't realize this, but social platforms condition your mind exactly like a slot machine. Psychologists call this variable reward reinforcement. It uses random bursts of dopamine designed to manipulate and keep the human mind completely hooked. You never know if the next time you open the app, you'll see something hilarious, something enraging, or nothing at all. And that unpredictability, that is exactly what makes it so incredibly addictive.
Let's actually break down this trap step by step so we can see how this works. Step 1, you scroll. Step 2, you get that random dopamine burst from a notification or a really engaging post. And step 3, you are hooked. You're trapped in this loop, constantly craving the next hit. Those who choose to quit are often hyper-aware that this precise manipulation is happening to their own brains.
Because of that, the myth that deleting the apps is just some angry act of rebellion against society is completely false. The reality is it's a hyper-aware act of deprogramming. It's really not about making a loud, anti-technology statement. It is a highly intentional, calculated decision to break that psychological conditioning. They are simply taking the remote control back to their own cognitive faculties.
Section 3. The incubation effect and digital minimalism.
Once all that digital noise is gone, a totally new kind of mental environment takes shape. Welcome to digital minimalism. This is the psychological realization that, and this is so important, not everything in life deserves an audience. There's a growing understanding that true peace actually thrives in psychological safety. In a world totally addicted to oversharing, holding on to a little mystery holds real power. Choosing privacy becomes this incredible source of personal tranquility.
And here is the paradox. The myth is that we need constant consumption to stay engaged. But the reality? Deep creation. When you're constantly scrolling, you're in a perpetual state of passive consumption, merely reacting to others. But when you step away, this massive void of time and mental space opens up. Ironically, by trading constant consumption for deep creation, these individuals stop just absorbing the world and actually start shaping it.
This transformation is driven by what's called the incubation effect. This is when your absolute best, most creative ideas finally surface, but only after disconnecting from constant stimulation. Psychology shows us a really counterintuitive truth about modern life. Our brains literally need periods of rest and, yes, even boredom to synthesize information and generate novel ideas. Disconnecting is quite literally the catalyst for unlocking your highest creative potential.
Section 4. Clarity over chaos. Let's look at the ultimate outcome of all this. True psychological detachment. What are the signs? Well, it's detachment without resentment. They're leaving from a place of deep awareness, not out of anger or dramatic rage quit. They've simply accepted the fundamental truth that real inner peace doesn't require outward visibility. They aren't mad at the platforms, they've just outgrown them.
I absolutely love this quote from our source material because it hits the nail right on the head. Silence can be louder than any story post. In a digital landscape where literally everyone is shouting to be noticed, choosing silence is an incredibly confident move. It speaks volumes about a person's inner security and their absolute refusal to play the exhausting game of competing for attention.
So if you ever felt the urge to just delete everything and start fresh, remember the myth that it's a sign of weakness is totally backwards. The reality is it's a profound indicator of psychological growth. It's so common to misinterpret the desire to unplug as an inability to cope, but as we've seen today, it means you are evolving past the need for superficial rewards and finally recognizing the true value of your own mind.
I'll leave you to ponder this final question. Is your mind craving clarity over chaos and truth over trends? Take a moment to consider your own digital habits and ask yourself if you're finally ready to prioritize peace. Sometimes, the most powerful way to connect with reality is to just disconnect from the feed. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this deep dive gave you a powerful new perspective. See you next time.